morning, everybody. Welcome. This is FMA Discussion, episode 212. And today, for the first, we're going to new territory. We have husband and wife. We have Kevin and Jackie Bradbury, and we're going to talk about their journey on Arnis and what they're doing, recent news of their new school, and all the good stuff in between. We're going to cover that. So if you have questions while you're watching, please let us know in the comment section, and I will get to them. And also, as always, let us know where you're watching from. Smash that like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to FMA Discussion, where you'll see this episode and other great ones. All the money that we receive from the channel goes to charitable donations. We do not keep any of it. So you actually will be helping us help others. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome. Thank you for both coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the first. Usually I do episodes at night, but always I think sometimes during the day, sometimes it's easier for me. So you guys gave me an idea of maybe doing more of the matinee scene. So we're gonna get into it. You guys have generally you start out in Marnies. Before we jump into the FMA aspect and portion of it, what was your guys' general background as far as martial arts is concerned?
Well, we originally got started in martial arts because my daughter was taking classes and we wanted to help keep her motivated. So I thought, well, the best way to do that was I need to get out there and do it with her.
Awesome.
But prior to that, we had zero martial
So
arts.
family affair.
Yeah.
More ways than one. That's awesome. Yeah, right. You want to be. She's doing it, so to keep her motivated and involved in it, why not jump in there? Well, can't argue that. So, what was the system?
It was a version of Taekwondo down in Mississippi.
Yeah, Pasaru Taekwondo, which is kind of endemic to the Memphis area.
So you guys are in Mississippi.
Yeah, we were basically in a suburb of Memphis, but that's where we first got into it. Was there. My career had taken us to that area. I was actually born and raised in Memphis, but ended up working there through completely different channels. And we lived there for about 3.5 years, and that's where we met. We first entered martial arts, and where we met our first modern Arnis teacher was in Mississippi.
Where just any are you any as far as Mississippi is concerned? I'm just curious. Were you close to Lake Mississippi?
No, we were literally, you could walk to Memphis from my house.
Oh, you were that close to the border. I got you.
We were, it's a suburb of Memphis. It's just
okay.
The side that has a state income tax. That's pretty much the big difference.
All right. And so, all right, so you're doing that. And then, so you just mentioned that you were first exposed down there to minor Arnis?
Yeah, we didn't go looking for it. One day a guy walks in the door of the school and we start talking, and he was asking, he was a karate guy, Riku Kempo karate, and he asked us if we'd ever heard of modern Arnis. And I remember it rang a bell with me from reading, martial arts magazines when I was younger, but
I had no idea what it was.
He basically, handed us a stick and said, "Do this," and that's how we got started with it.
Yeah, fell in love pretty much immediately. I was the last person in our family to start training, and I was just a few months shy of 40 years old at that time. And I started training in Pasaru in April, and I used June as the dates when modern Arnis. So June is our modern Arnis anniversary.
June. Okay. All right. So Mississippi. So was he a rep of Remy, or I mean, what?
No, he was actually a student of Bruce Chu. His name was David Jones.
Okay.
So we were learning, karate from him, and we were also learning modern Arnis from him. At the time, he was learning modern Arnis from Bruce. So he was basically practicing on us.
The typical way that a lot of FMAs have spread throughout the United States, where someone will train with someone, or they'll go to a couple of seminars, they go home and they find other people to show it to so they can learn how to do it.
So they can have somebody, a training partner, sure.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's how we started. We were those training partners that were recruited.
Okay. Yeah, he it's funny, we're gonna get, obviously get more into this, but I always knew and heard about Marnies, But honestly speaking, my understanding or how the impact he had in this country came through me doing his interviews. Like I knew he got into traditional schools, but I didn't know to the extent of it and how once the owner of the school, despite what style they were doing, he enabled and allowed them to start teaching it to automatically just start the growth. And so it completely makes sense. While like it's widely it was widely shared and then getting into the schools and all that. But that's stuff that kind of came through the interviews here. So it's obviously incredible what he did, and borderline genius. His
Well,
approach.
and is still reverberating to this
Yeah.
day. Kevin and I are second generation students. We never met either Professor Remy Presas or Grandmaster Ernesto Presas. We never met either of those gentlemen. We
Mm.
we are students of their students.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
those reverberations are continuing to go down the line.
yeah. It
And
sure
then
does seem like it. I mean,
our students are third gen now, and that's how it's going to live and grow, and it's going to change in different flavors, and that's all cool.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
kind of the side effect of that process, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And we got some people, right? Wow. We got, all right. Give me, we got Brian, we got Paul, Brad Taylor. Folks, if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from. And if you got questions, let us know and smash that like button. We're just started. We're just getting into it. All right. So that's your first exposure. Mississippi, you're getting, obviously the stick and all that. So did he, was it kind of just, was it an actual curriculum per se, or was it just kind of random stuff?
Uh, kind of threw us in the deep end, and just said, do this. And we just kind of did what we were told. And there wasn't anything written. There was no curriculum. It was just whatever he needed to work on.
Yeah, it was pretty much all over the place, but and so I think there's good and bad to that process with the perspective of now we're 13 years later, and teaching ourselves, so I think there's pros and cons to that. But it definitely got us addicted enough that I was the primary person for our family who was working at that time, and I got laid off in December of that year, and I ended up finding another job in the worst of the Great Recession in Las Vegas. And so we had a year, almost, not quite 18 months. It was less than 18 months in Las Vegas. And that's where the next chapter started for us. Because it couldn't, and again, this is, I will say the one thing I'm glad to see with what you're doing, what I hope other people do more, is the visibility of trying to find people is so difficult. So we go to Vegas. This is in 2000, early 2009 is when we're in Vegas. Could not find anybody in our, in the modern Arnis world. And at that time, we didn't know about Comiton. And honestly, our viewpoint of the FMA world was like this. We didn't know.
Yeah, right.
Big and it's varied, and this is the process of where we learned that is when we went out to Vegas. And as we moved out there, we found out that I was pregnant with our second child, and so I stopped doing hard arts completely. So I spent what martial arts I did in that year for me was mostly doing things like Tai Chi in the park.
Yeah.
We were in Vegas. We met somebody who did like Inasano.
Inasano blend, yeah.
And so I trained with him a little bit. Not real extensively, but it was a way to, I got introduced to some things that were very different than what I learned in modern Arnis. I kind of got to get an idea that there's a lot more out there than that. And otherwise, during that time, since we didn't have anybody else to work with, we were basically trying to learn everything we could from books and videos, because that's the only resource that we had.
Which is certainly better than doing nothing. I mean, at least you were trying to maintain being active and relevant. You know what I mean? You could have just sat on the couch and done nothing.
And that's the big advantage that we had that a lot of people don't have, is that we had each other. And not only that, we were, we started at the same time. So we were at the same level, right? So we were equals working out as we were trying to learn. Right. And so having two people doing that together is 10 times easier, I think, than someone who's solo, who's trying to do it by themselves.
Yeah. And we just got I got a question here. Hey, Dean, could you make the first post who it is? Yeah, I could do that. That's no problem. It should be in the heading, though. So those who maybe can't see the heading, but you should be able to see the heading. It's, again, this is a husband and wife. We have Kevin and Jackie Bradbury of Arnis and all that, but that hopefully should be in the heading. If it's not, I apologize, but I'm pretty positive I did. But anyway, okay, so you move, you still want to continue in the lane of modern niece and all that. So what's kind of the, I guess, well, first let's just piggyback back up a bit. What, when obviously known for its stick work, modern niece and all that. What resonated you? I mean, like what made it that where you guys wanted to seek more of this? I mean, you guys are coming from a traditional martial arts background. Somebody puts a stick in your hand, totally different country, different martial art, all things together, heavily weapon based, of course, and all that. What do you guys think of the experience, and what really resonated with you, with each of you?
I think, well, for me, it was when David Jones first started trying to teach us Tappy Tappy. That was for me. It felt very different from doing karate forms and from karate sparring, because now we were right there in each other's faces, and you were learning how to basically do almost like a pre-programmed fight where you could go full tilt at each other and not really have to worry about hurting each other, because you knew the other person knew the other half, so that they wouldn't get hurt. And that really physical, aggressive, in your face
Realism,
was very important to me. I connected with that a lot more than I connected with doing katas and sparring.
Oh, no, okay. Oh, so that was something that really, okay. So that was kind of the thing right there. So, and yeah, I'm familiar with Tappy Tappy.
We were pretty new to martial arts, period,
Okay.
right? So while we started in Taekwondo, I don't consider myself a Taekwondo player. I actually earned blue belts in 2 different versions of Taekwondo. And no disrespect to that. My daughter has a black belt in Taekwondo, and I have a lot of friends who do it. It's just not for me. And I consider myself a modern Arnis FMA native martial art. That is my martial art. Well, we do Presas Arnis, and we'll talk about the difference in a minute.
Yeah, we're gonna get,
Yeah, we'll worry about that later. But the point being is that, the stick and the knife and the sword, all of that is native for us versus being something that we added on to some other base.
I got you right. We're most in the Marni's journey. They started out in Kempo, and then through we bring it in there, they added it to what they were already doing. No, I get what you're saying. Okay.
Exactly. And so for me, number one, I've had somebody tell me once that, martial artists are like 1% of the population, and of the martial arts population, 1% are weapons people, right?
Yeah.
I'm 1%. I had no idea that I would love weapons the way that I felt.
Yeah. I think it's just something that resonates.
The idea of not just dancing in the air with them, but like hitting things. I love it immediately. It just sparked my interest, and I'm still passionate about it to this day.
Yeah, I think I think it really does innately trigger something in us. You know what I mean? For those who do it, yeah, and whatever that trigger is. I mean, I'm sure it's different from many of them, but it obviously brings out something else.
Yeah, I just discovered pretty early in my training journey that hitting other people with an object hurt me far less than hitting them with my fist.
Yeah, no, well, that's a whole nother thing. I mean, women's self-defense, I believe, is weapon. Yeah, but without veering off topic, I love hitting things. Yeah, yeah, you got somebody who also.
My tribe.
Yeah, there you go. So, how about you, Sir Kevin? What resonated with you, swinging that stick around and all that?
Like I said, I like the fact that it felt aggressive and but planned, not just wildly swinging away at each other, but there was strategy involved. You had to think about it, and you were looking at that whole idea of the counter to the counter to the counter, that you were always looking for the possible responses that somebody could do and have a plan for that, and in my mind, it felt intellectual.
Oh, okay, that's a first on the show, felt intellectual. That's a first. All right.
No, I think it's super, super nerdy. You know,
Yeah.
speaking as a native nerd, I know that this is, it is
You're native?
candy of it is what keeps you in, you know?
I'm sorry, did you say you're native?
No, no, no.
Oh, okay. All right, I thought I had felt
I'm a
native.
nerd native.
Gotcha. My mistake. My mistake.
No, I'm just a raging nerd.
You know what I mean? Like I would see these guys who were, light years ahead of me,
Mhm.
and watching them go through different responses. In a way, it was the way they had it organized in their head, trying to figure out how do you keep track of it all? How do you know
They always have a plan.
you're going to do this, you're going to do that, all the different locks, all the different, disarms, and how they mentally organize that material, that was very interesting to me as well. So,
Mm. Yeah. I mean, like it's, so then, all right, so we're kind of status quo. We're in Las Vegas. We're trying to find a Marnies to continue in
And it
that
didn't
lane.
work.
No
And
such luck.
here's the kicker. So had our daughter in Las Vegas. Just as we were starting to get recovered and looking at training, I got laid off again.
Oh,
I got laid
God.
off twice in a great session within 18 months. It was really fun. And our job search, it ended up, and we looked at trying to go back to Memphis, possibly. We looked at a lot of different options, but my next job brought us to Dallas, Fort Worth. And that's where we spent the majority of the time that we've trained in Dallas, Fort Worth, and that's where we found our
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
and we were the years we were there for from 2010 to 2018, so 8 years. We were deeply involved in what was going on in the FMA scene, Dallas Fort Worth,
Was it
especially.
Modernese? I'm assuming Modernese.
Not just that, no, not just modern Arnis. We made a lot of friends and connections with people of all sorts of styles there. And that's partly because our teacher is a man named Mark Lynn. Mark is a consummate student. He is always networking. He is always trying to learn. He is a guy, and it sounds like I'm making this up, but this is absolutely true. If Mark is not currently engaged in some task, he will look over camp notes from like 99 and find like some drill that he'd forgotten about. And then he gets all excited about it. And then, oh, I forgot about this drill. And that's how he spends his Saturday nights. And
Oh, okay.
I'm joking, but we're not. That's exactly what he does. But falling into meeting him, and the story of how we found him is, again, our community is better now, but I don't think we're there yet in communicating to the fact that we exist. Trying to find my
That's the
teacher.
show. Try, yeah.
It took us about 6 months,
Mm.
and it was by pure luck that we found him.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because I know in Texas, very big state for PTK.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's actually the first thing that we found was a meetup for PTK. It didn't quite jive with us. Not that there was anything wrong with PTK, because there isn't. Obviously, it's a great system. It just wasn't jiving where our heads were at, right?
Yeah, right. You're right. I mean, that happens to all of us.
Our original teacher, David Jones, had lived literally one town over from where we ended up moving in North Texas back in the day. So he had martial arts contacts, but unfortunately, a lot of the people that he knew or he was leading to us were like, if you've ever been in Dallas, Fort Worth for any given period of time, you understand that it takes an hour to get anywhere. So they'd be like an hour and a half away, and trying to train with little kids, especially since my youngest was still a toddler at the time, was just not working out. And so we did a local Taekwondo school because it was the one that was close. And my daughter could do it, and we wanted to get training, and we just it was a fantastic school, really great people, but we just didn't want to do Taekwondo, and decided, well, what we're going to do is the money we're spending on this, we're going to go back to Memphis once a quarter and train with our original teacher. That's what we'll do, right?
All right.
We're literally preparing to do this. And at the time, I was pretty active on Martial Talk, and I noticed that there was a guy, again, that one town over, who was posting about modern Arnis, and I messaged him, but he never got back to me. So I just figured either he didn't want to talk to me or he's not active. I didn't I just, gave it up as a lost cause. So it's literally the last weekend we're going to be in this school. And one of the guys there, now they did teach like their Taekwondo brown belts, some stuff from Pikiti Terzia as well as in Asano, because one of the guys there trained in both systems.
Okay.
And but they wouldn't let me train it formally because I didn't have a brown belt in Taekwondo.
You have to wait till you get a certain level, and
yeah, because that, my brown belt Taekwondo is really gonna make me play Arnis. Really.
No, I know. I went through that. My initial background was Taekwondo, and so seen it. Yeah.
So you weren't allowed to touch a stick until you were a brown belt, but in any.
Yeah.
But he knew that we were Arnis people, and he pointed out a guy sitting on the sidelines who come in. He taught Taekwondo at a different community center, because this was at a community center program, at a different community center, and he had a Taekwondo student transfer to this place out in Roanoke, Texas, from Keller. And so he's introducing himself and saying, "Hey, the student, just making nice, right?"
Mm.
And he goes, "I think he does what you do. You do like presses, right? Like modern Arnis." Yeah, I was like, "I think he does that." So sure enough, it was Mark Lynn, my teacher, and yes, he does. So we met with him the next day at our garage and showed him what we'd been flailing around poorly, because we'd only trained for like maybe 8 months with a teacher, right? So you're going to be all over the place, and we're trying to learn from video and trying to, just doing the best we could. And that's when we started studying with Mark. Mark's ranked in both Modernese and Combatant. He's a Hawk guy, a Hawkeye guy. Yeah, and that's where he originally got introduced. But he went to several camps with Modernese and several camps with Combatant, and he's trained under both brothers. So we call our teacher and say, "Hey, David, you won't believe it. We finally found a guy. We don't have to come to Memphis." He's like, "Oh, really? That's awesome. Who is it?" And we said, "Mark Lynn." He goes, "Oh." It's like, "What do you mean?" "Oh," he goes, "Well, I completely forgot Mark was there. I used to live 2 doors down from him."
Oh, jeez.
They knew each other.
They knew each other. Right. Wow.
David just blanked that Mark was there, and they
Right, that he actually, I got
each other. Their daughters went to elementary school together.
Wow. And it just slipped his mind, geographically speaking, that you guys were right.
Here's the kicker. The guy I messaged on Marshall Talk,
Yeah.
that was Mark. He just couldn't respond to me.
Well, it sounds like a long road traveled, but it worked out.
Yes. Well, I felt like the universe kept trying to get Mark, Lynn, and us together to train.
One way or another.
It finally worked at the third try, right? Bringing him into the school where we were. Literally the last day I was going to set foot in that place. It's just crazy how that worked.
Mark, he didn't have a Modernese or Presas or Arnis class going at the time. He was teaching, Taekwondo.
He wanted to start one up.
And so we had students and us. And then that really we started going at it a lot. I mean, we were training 3 to 4 times a week. And we really got into it. Of course, now he's excited because he's got somebody who wants to learn all of this.
Sure.
And so he's excited about doing it. And right from the beginning, it was a blend of both modern Arnis and Combatant. It was never, I don't consider myself a modern Arnis person because I have like middle rank in modern Arnis. I never even got to black belt. Just never had the opportunity. So the vast majority of my time has been doing both, a blend of both.
Okay.
And so that's really my heart. Where my heart is that there's so much love in both of them. I would be very reluctant to go to one exclusively.
Yeah. So when we go play with our modern Arnis family, we're very Combatant-y in how we play. When we play with our Combatant friends, we're very modern Arnis-y.
Oh, geez. We're gonna get into that. So, all right. So before we get into the Kansas City move and all that, so if just for the people who are watching, just so some chronological context here, we're currently discussing that you guys are in Dallas. You finally got Mark Lynn, and you guys are now. You're starting to train it somewhat on a regular kind of basis and all that.
We trained 4 times a week. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
every chance we got and we practiced at home like crazy. So,
Okay.
you
Okay.
know,
All
we
right.
got a lot of mat time, a lot of time banging sticks and otherwise, a lot more than a lot of people get. And again, our advantage was that there were 2 of us in the class, right?
Yeah.
So just us and instructor, one of us and an instructor. It was both of us and an instructor. But also, we trained at home, and we used to in our garage in Texas. We had, those big white like the big paper sheets that you can like put stickies on a wall.
Oh,
Like
correct. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. We had our garage was covered in those things with our notes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you
Yeah,
guys were.
it was like a big note, like the whole garage was covered in notes, and we had like
Yeah.
2 whiteboards where we were constantly writing and going through that stuff.
Oh,
So
so you guys were. You guys.
Something
you
that
guys
happened
were
pretty
serious.
early on after we started training with Mark was, the class started growing, but we wanted the opportunity to train with other people, cross train. And Mark knew some people, scattered around the DFW area.
but the spark to it was when he came up here to Kansas City, of all places, to attend an Ian Abernathy karate seminar, and met with and renewed his friendship with Abel Martinez, who is a student of Thai-botics. Okay, so they knew each other from the camps, and Abel lives in Stephenville, which is like, it was like 2 hours from us in where we were.
Okay.
So that friendship fired back up, and we got to meet him, and then the people who trained in Stephenville. We all became kind of like this big knot of friends, training together when we could.
Wow. So different bodies. Okay.
We decided to, we ended up putting together the first, it was like a combined seminar. We formed what we call MAPA, which was MAPA, Metroplex, which is DFW, Arnis Players Alliance. And all it was just a loose affiliation of people who knew each other and wanted to cross train.
I just wanted to train. Okay.
We did the first seminar, and basically what it was there was 4 teachers, each one taught for an hour. We kept the price low so that it was accessible to as many people as possible, and the teachers could teach whatever they wanted to.
And we had just about every style you could name. There we had a hard time recruiting. We desperately tried to get Inosanto people to play with us. I think we got it. And we really wanted Pakiti folk to come too, but they never did. And it's a shame.
No, it's not the first time. I know. It's like some people are just reluctant to want to go. And to me, I think there's just nothing more beneficial to be exposed to the most styles you can be. But some, you can bring them to the clean water. Doesn't mean they're drinking it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And being in that environment, being able to have so many different styles getting connected to us, and just being that I want to change styles. All it did was it helped me see these different perspectives and different ways to problem solve that helped me understand what I was doing better.
So we started doing these things almost once a quarter. And I think we did a total of 13.
There's 13 that we did. There's been some since, but COVID has interrupted them.
So Jack and I
here in Kansas City
basically handled, organizing, making up flyers, and trying to promote it, and help organize the instructors and trying to get everybody together.
Tried to move it all over town.
Yeah, we moved it to the location every time. I think overall we had, last time when I tried to figure out, we had 8 different styles represented at some point.
That's incredible. I mean, and just again for the folks that are watching, what year about was this?
I want to say our first MAPA had to be 2014. And so it was 2014 through early. The last one was like just a few weeks before we moved up here.
Before you got it, yeah, that's incredible.
So there were 13 of them at that time. There has been MAPAs since. I want to say they've had 2, but COVID has been a real big problem.
No, it's just ruined everything.
Yeah. And getting that organized has been tough. And we've had 2 versions of that here in Kansas City since we moved here. So and here it's called HAPA. So it's and Arnis, because we're the heartland.
That's incredible, though. The fact that,
We're going to have a third, and then COVID hit, and we just haven't gotten one reorganized yet.
yeah,
We were going to try to do one this fall. Don't think that's going to happen. It probably will happen probably in the spring. We were planning on doing it twice a year.
yeah.
So with those seminars, we got to meet people all over DFW, and through those connections, we met other people, and
All over the country, all over the world.
you start realizing just how broad FMA actually is, in terms of content and what can be done. Of course, I met one of the people that I trained with was Grandmaster Art Miraflor from Stockton. Mark Lynn and I both trained with him. We met him because of Matt.
Yeah, he just
showed up.
heard about it on Facebook and showed up. And we had no idea. We hadn't met him, so we didn't know who he was.
Right.
Ended up being a well-regarded grandmaster in his own right, a super awesome human being. And Kevin and Mark got to train with him and learn Murata Eskrima from him. And so that was a really huge opportunity for them, which would not have happened if we weren't out there.
No, right. If you weren't trying to promote and get together, the fact that you guys had 8 different styles, obviously you guys are doing something right. I tried, matter of fact, we're trying to get something going there in Connecticut, and we're starting out slow and small. We're going to try 3, see where it goes, and then maybe that. But
the nice thing, the way it worked out was that everybody who came checked their egos at the door.
Yeah.
All the instructors were on equal footing.
Everybody was wearing, the typical, the generic FMA uniform of a t-shirt and shorts.
They it really was, everybody was there to mutually learn from each other. All the instructors participated in the other instructors, training segment.
You just hit something very key. They participate, because I've heard nightmares where they'll do their thing, but and then their students, it's the worst.
There was a couple who didn't do that.
It's not a good reflection.
The majority did.
Yeah, and I can tell you 2 that we've had here in Kansas City were absolutely that way. The instructors were full participants when they weren't teaching, and everybody trained with everybody. And
it's good modeling for the students. It's absolute essential role modeling for your students. They're there, regardless of there. You show respect and you participate in every module from every instructor. I just think that's just so key. And for those who don't do that, I think they're doing a disservice to the community and to their students. They're not showing them,
Yeah.
Well, our teacher Mark and us 2 as his seniors about a year ago sat down and said, well, because he's got, again, he's the eternal learner, so he's got 5. He's always screwing around with his curriculum and all that stuff, right? Because he's always wanting to tinker and make it better, and he sees cool things he wants to put in. He has some influences that we don't now. And so we codified 12 principles of Presas Arnis. It's a riff off of the 10 principles of small circle jujitsu. And one of those principles is learn from everyone. Learn from everyone. Even that wholeheartedly, so much that it is on the wall of our school, and we insist that our students.
Good for you.
Yeah, one of the things about when we were doing those seminars too is that guys who weren't teaching would still come. So even though maybe they taught the last one.
Gotcha. But they're still supporting
with their students and supporting.
That's right.
It wasn't just, and nobody was getting rich off of it.
That's awesome.
Your gas.
We kept the fee low to encourage people to do it as a trial, because if it's inferior to cost, they've never done it before. It's an opportunity to get in and give it a try, and not have cost to do it, like having like a big seminar of a big name, or trying to go to a camp or something like that. We made it really, really friendly to newbies, casuals, as well as hardcore stick swingers like us.
And then, building that network allowed you to have enough people around to support me, bringing in some people from the outside. That some bigger names for seminars.
Yeah,
that-
right. Because once you get it going, I mean, obviously he can take it wherever he wants. I mean, but we got some folks here. We got Chris Chu. Hey, Jackie and Kevin. Eric Harris from Georgia. Chad Bailey
Hey, Chad.
from good old Miami. It must be nice down there now. We're starting to get cold. And we got Scott from Canada. We got Jimmy from, I believe, is Maryland. Yes, Maryland. And yes, it's so true. Love that. We got to learn from everyone. 100%. You got to cross train. Yeah. If you don't, I think you're robbing yourself of your own journey. It's just that simple.
That's fine. Robbing yourself of your journey.
I don't know. I don't get it. No, I'm
That's
gonna rob
right.
it.
I like that.
And then, well, when we were in Texas too, is when I started training with Hockheim also.
Mm.
Mark is one of the highest ranked people under Hawk in his PAC, his Pacific Archipelago Concepts, which is his FMA blend under Force Necessary. And Hawk just reinforced that all the more, that the whole idea of the Pacific Archipelago is, you can take from all of these different styles and nations and combine, that into your own system.
I think so.
A lot, very free of dogma.
Yeah. Right. I know. Yeah. It's just it's one of the internal battles in FMA. Do you stay in your lane or do you leave your lane?
Well,
and,
we tell our students, if they're traveling and you've got an opportunity to train with somebody else, go do it. It's not
students all the time. I am not the only source. I don't have all the answers. Go out there and hopefully you bring it back.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, if you learn something cool while you're out somewhere else, you come back and show us. We're happy about
We're
that.
thrilled.
I would love for them to do that one day. Hey, I went to this. Yeah, but I don't know. You can encourage. I mean, I do encourage it, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So all right. So so we're covering. Those are just watching. Yes, tell us where you're watching from and all that. We're just we're a half hour in right now. We're in, geographically speaking, we're in Dallas, but I have a feeling
Well,
we're gonna
technically Fort Worth, but
be forward, but we're
all the people who care about that distinction are people who live in Fort Worth. So
okay. So we'll keep those people in mind. So Fort Worth. So all right, when's the move to? I have a feeling we're going to be transitioning to Kansas City.
right. Well, remember, I actually moved. We moved to Mississippi from Kansas City. So Kevin is from Kansas City, and I've moved here now 3 times. We had decided my oldest was a junior in high school. My kids are 9 years apart. My oldest was a junior in high school, and we kind of looked at each other one day and said, as much as we love our training life in Texas was awesome. It's just too hot and flat for me, man. It just is. I like winter. I like the trees to change before Thanksgiving. So
bring up to Connecticut. You'll really love it.
Do what?
I'm bringing Connecticut, man. All the fluctuation in temperatures you can have for a lifetime.
Well, we looked all over the country. We considered a lot of places, but just all of the things, because we could have moved anywhere. And believe me, martial arts life was a big consideration on places that we considered.
It's huge.
And ultimately, Kansas City hit all the boxes for us, except for our martial arts life. But because of the connections that Abel and his lineage and folks, they had a group up here in Blue Springs, which is a suburb of Kansas City, who had just started with their karate organization, but they wanted to learn Arnis. Okay. So that helped some, but we didn't even know about that until we'd already made the decision to move. We just kind of wanted to come home. We made the decision. It was right. We did a Thanksgiving trip in 2017, made the decision. We were looking for reasons not to move here. Didn't find any. Yeah, so we started the process. And my daughter graduated from high school on like June 3rd, and we moved on June 4th. And 2 weeks later, we started the Kansas City Presas Arnis meetup in a park. So we didn't waste any time.
You guys didn't waste any time. All right. Wow, you guys no time wasted. You guys were
No. It initially was, if nobody else shows up, it was reserving time for Kevin and I to kind of get away from things and train, right? And it was just us sometimes, but then it started getting a little traction because, it takes a little while on Meetup for people to for you. And we did get discovered, and we were in the park for about 6-7 months. It was getting really cold. December and January in Kansas City is cold, very cold. And we were all covered. There's pictures of us from that time. But through our connections, through Hawk, because he had been here, we had made friends with a martial arts school owner who hosted us on. We had to change the day of the week, but so we changed to Sunday mornings at this school over in Riverside, which is another suburb. And that's where we really got going on the Meetup, and we did that Meetup until we moved into the school. So
a guy named Eric Siley has a problem in God school. And,
hosts Hawk a lot, so that's how we got
it's
to
a very successful.
Oh, okay.
He hosts Hawk a lot, and so that's how I met Eric, and he was really gracious and generous to let us use his space for several years, to do our meetups.
Yeah.
So that's what we used to build our base, was the meetups.
Yeah, and getting noisy, being as noisy as you can be so people can find you. I think that's the biggest problem, is that I think there's a guy here, there's a gal there, there's a little group here, and nobody knows where each other are, because they're not very active on social media.
Yeah, there seems to be like the connecting the dots seems to be an issue far as these guys in Florida, I tell you, man, they got it down.
Oh, I know, they're awesome down there.
They got it down, man. I think what they're doing is great down there. They cross train, they meet up.
I know, wonderful. And
they should be the template. Actually, they should be the template for in Connecticut. And I hate to say this, I'm not trying to be pessimistic or negative, and I'm doing all I can to do it, because if you don't do anything, then you have no right to complain. So I'm actually putting my best foot forward and trying to get something together. But man, it's tough, because you got that lane, and like people like, well, why would I train with you? You know what I mean? It's just
I think the trick is, once you can pull off one positive experience, right?
Yeah.
And you make it well known, and you have all the people who participate be noisy about it too, right?
I
In
agree.
different circles and online and all that stuff. It'll help break down some of those barriers.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think which we're going to do. We have this thing coming.
What they think, and it's way awesome, because it is way awesome.
No, yeah, we have this thing in November in Connecticut, and I plan to, I'm starting to do, because it's coming up, but while it's going on, I'm definitely, and post event, I'm definitely going to really, just so people see, like, hey, well, they did it. But it's funny though. I'm running that in conjunction with the show. Like, I had people from PTK on, bringing 3 different Tuhans. So I'm running that in conjunction with the show. So there's parallel. So I'm going to get a steady diet of just like, you know what I mean? Because here, when we see, so what I'm hearing, Dean, yes, I think Chris, man, I think what you guys are doing down there for Honest God, I think is absolutely wonderful. I think you guys are the example that the country can look at and emulate what you guys are doing there, 100%. And speaking of which, might be coming down there in February. Who knows?
Really?
Florida. Yeah.
Maybe we should all do a trip to Florida in February.
Could be.
I was in Florida last February. I went
last February.
Our camp, and it was awesome. I had a wonderful experience down there.
You were there. I was supposed to be there.
I was there. Yeah, I came to that.
Yeah. I didn't realize how far it was from Miami, and the next day I had to leave. So it was just going to be like a lot of traveling for like a half a day.
I had made it a goal of mine to, honestly, the goal of mine was to, I really wanted to meet Chad Bailey.
Yeah, however, I did meet when I was down there.
For a long time, and getting to meet and train with him, and of course, I reconnected with, with the Chews, of course, Bruce Chew being our first grandmaster, and I didn't know Chris, now I do, and it's awesome. We hosted them at up here in June.
Yeah, we had them here.
And so I really, there's just so many people there I want to connect with. Dan Lohman was there too, and I wanted to reconnect with him. So that was all pretty, it was awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah,
They're so lucky there. It's fantastic.
Matter of fact, I go there in February because that's when things up here get like pretty nasty. So yeah, but Chad, that's good to know, Chad. Because I could try to plan it out around February 4th to 6th. I'm assuming, Chad, you're having it in the same area, Tampa or Orlando, one of the two? I'll wait to him answer. But anyway, let's get to that. So your instructors, we've been trying to get Hawk on. Supposedly, I think he's going to come on. I hope he does. At any rate, but so let's talk about your instructors. You guys I know you've had Bruce Chu. So you're in Kansas. So we're in Kansas City now. So what folks are you bringing in to further your understanding and your development within Modern East? So Master Chu, who else?
Well, it's been anyway because of COVID, and we had some people that I'd reached out to about potentially coming, and and it was always the same thing. It's like, well, because of COVID, travel restrictions, and we get that, and things are starting to loosen up a little bit now. Right now, our focus is on, just getting our school up and running
and networking in our FMA community as a whole. I think, again, because COVID was a real big problem for so many of us, and we have made a lot of FMA friends in different styles here. Now that it's safer to do so, we can do a lot more reconnecting in person, which I think is necessary. But as we build up this larger FMA scene, I guess, here in the city, and that we will just be a part of, then there'll be opportunities to look at, all of us, those of us, especially who are connected to, like one of our friends is an Asano guy, bringing in, whoever they want to bring in, and can we help support that? Us looking at bringing in people. I mean, of course, I would love to bring in Bruce every weekend if I could, but it's just, that isn't going to happen. And I think he'd get tired of that travel flight, but he go first class. So that would be nice. He might enjoy that, but
yeah, Chris might not mind. He can.
But we've got so many people in this community that we're connected to, that we enjoy and that we would love to host. I've had the benefit of being able to go to and train at camps that Kevin couldn't go to because one of us had to stay home with kids. So
our training
and it did. Our training in Texas did diverge a bit. I spent 3 years in a Kobudo program where I learned Okinawan weapons.
Okay.
Yeah, and Kevin got to train with Grandmaster Art, and he viewed his rank and path. So we did, while we have a lot of overlap in our interests and our skill sets, I know a bunch of stuff he doesn't know, and he knows a bunch of stuff I don't.
She's met way more of the Modern East community than
I've traveled more. Yeah, I've traveled more. So
interesting. Okay. I didn't know that. All right.
I've gone to IMAP camps. I've met a lot of the masters of Tappy Tappy. Of course, I'm a member of the WMAA. I'm grateful to call Datu Dieter a friend, as well as and those folks. And
he's on here. Seems like a really good guy. Yeah.
He is. He's a really nice guy. So and that's just skittering off the top of all the people that I've gotten the opportunity to meet and train with and learn and create relationships with. So there's a list as long as my arm of everyone I would like to bring in.
Yeah, I know, but
make it is another question.
No, I know. And then you look at logistics, and it's just it gets hard. But just let's piggyback off what you just said there, as far as all the people you've been exposed to, as far as within the Modern East community. I mean, would they, as a whole, I guess the ones that had more influence than not, maybe based on frequency if you've seen them. What did they instill in you, each of you, like far as your Modern East journey, what have you?
Well, for me, that is endearing about all of them is tell stories of Professor, and they will all sound alike. They all do the same accent, and they all tell very similar stories. And given that some of them don't train with or get along with some of the others, right? Because, that's any group of people, that's what's going to happen. But they all have that same magic that they were touched by. And so I think Brian Zwolinski just had a reunion camp.
Yes, in Connecticut.
Beginning of
Yes.
this month in Connecticut. And I wish it wasn't so expensive to fly there. Otherwise, I would have been there as well.
Yeah.
But the spirit of that, I have felt that in little elements individually, right? And I as a second gen, my wish is for everyone to get along and for everybody to be happy and to keep training and discovering and growing. And that's my perspective. And so I get to see that as the second gen, because nobody cares what I think anyway, so it's fine. So I get to see all those special things about each of the people that I've gotten to interact with. And that's been incredibly valuable, because each of them gives me a little piece of the puzzle that's different.
And to get to listen to people sit back and honestly tell stories about, Remy and Ernesto, because we didn't know them personally. We never met.
Right, you didn't meet. Okay, yeah.
Right. So it's important for us, because that's part of our heritage.
It's a part of building the community as a whole. It's a part of what binds those of us who are in these systems together, are those stories and the personalities of those people, and
Sure.
the way that they built these communities, and to keep them going, we need to know all of that. What's the term for that? We need to have that collective memory passed out.
Yeah, for those, like you said, who have not met them, you know what I mean? So at least they can get some semblance of like the system that they're training in, and who the founder was and what have you. And we got who we got? Oh, Royce. We got him saying hi. Who's coming on next month? And we got two on Arlene. Hey, all right. The winter camp, February. Yeah, okay, close to Orlando. Okay, all right. Well, yeah, I'm either Orlando, Tampa, I'm going to, or Fort Myers, Eric down there. All right, so let's okay, so when did you guys officially start to teach it? Far as not present day, but like when did you guys start to teach modern niece and all that?
Well, we teach Presas Arnis, not modern Arnis.
Okay, but or just teach FMA in general. Let's put it
right. So that we started doing that as assistant instructors underneath our teacher in Texas. And then in 2016,
something like that.
Does that sound right? We opened up a satellite Presas Arnis class at a different recreation center on opposite nights that our teacher was teaching.
Okay.
So we can still go to class.
Right. So we would go to classes on Monday, Wednesday. We would teach on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Gotcha. So
and Saturday we'd be in class. So
then what was the inspiration to start teaching? I mean, and all that. And second question, what do you try and instill in your students as far as their journey? So first part, what was the inspiration to teach? Second part, what do you try and instill in your students as far as their FMA journey?
Well, I think the reason for wanting to teach was just because we've been so fortunate to be the beneficiaries of all this knowledge from the people that we've been, gotten to train with. And it's kind of your responsibility to go out and teach it to other people, to pass it along and to share it. And we found out
I've never heard before.
The martial program folded and they had an opening and we took it. We lost our chance to take it, so we did.
That's incredible. You just hit something that I've never heard mentioned before, as far as with the aspect of teaching, that's our responsibility. I've never heard it expressed that way. So that was pretty special. I've never heard anybody I've had on here say it's our responsibility. Or if they did, I don't recollect them saying that. And I think I would have. I think that would have stood out to me. So that's awesome. So how about you, Miss Jackie?
For me, I wanted other people to feel that empowerment, and excitement, and just the feeling of accomplishment you get when you train. It's such a high. It's hard to describe to people who don't do it, but it's so accessible to every one of us. You don't have to be super fit, young, top shape dude to do this well. You don't, and that's one of the things I try to communicate about the Filipino martial arts to people who don't train, they're martial arts, but they don't train in our world, is the fact that it is so accessible, and that as a system, it ages with you. It complements the process of aging or disability versus taking things away from you.
One of the things that my teacher Mark said to us one time was his way of defining it. I don't know if he got this from somebody else or not, so I don't know the ultimate origin, but he said in karate and taekwondo, you conform yourself to the art. You make your body do what the art tells you to do. And in Arnis, you learn the art and then you conform the art to you, so that my Arnis is not going to be the same as her Arnis.
It's definitely not. We are very different players.
And so in the long run, it's okay if you don't do things the way that I do it. Sure. You're a different person. And so that always really resonated with me. That idea that, you conform the art to you, to suit your life, your physical abilities, your gifts, the things that are make things physically harder for you to do. And I haven't really gotten that, I don't think, from any other art. I've seen that heard that expressed.
Yeah. No. Well said, both of you, on both your points, as far as your reasonings for teaching. I thought that was inspirational. We got Jeremy. Hello, just finished work. Have to watch the beginning later. And we got Maestro June. Hello from Prague. All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you kind of mentioned this before, just sort of folks are listening. You start out in Arnis, but then you made a transition to Ernest Presas system. So what say you guys about that?
Well, okay, so our teacher Mark always taught us a blend of modern Arnis and Competent. Always.
Right from the beginning.
Right from the beginning. So we had elements from Competent that we've been doing for many years now.
From day one. Okay.
Yeah. So certain things, certain techniques, certain systems, certain points of view, certain philosophies permeate what we do. When we play with our modern Arnis friends, they can absolutely see it, and that's cool. We are now that we're in Kansas City, we have better connections through our Combaton family to train more deeply in Combaton the way I've been able to do over the years in modern Arnis. So it's going to shade in some of I have a lot of gaps in Combaton, but just kind of shading in so I understand all of that a little bit better. But ultimately, I love the combination of the two styles. I think they complement really well. I've often what is Presas Arnis? Now, honestly, there are several versions of Presas Arnis out there where they emphasize different things based on the experience that each
they had with him or when they train with them. Sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And they're all good, and they're all good. Presas Arnis is like, you remember that old commercial? I don't know if you must be old enough to remember them. You got peanut butter in my chocolate. You got chocolate in my peanut butter, right? Well, we are the Reese's peanut butter cup of the FMA world. Nobody dislikes Reese's peanut butter cups. So I'm just saying.
I haven't met anybody anyhow.
Candy bucket, so just saying. So that is really what it's like, and the difference between what we're doing and what our teacher has taught us versus say what the WMAA teaches versus like some other folk might teach. It's just a matter of which ingredients went into that Reese's peanut butter cup, but they're all still delicious.
What you put emphasis on when you start introducing material, it gets in that whole curriculum thing, which is a rabbit hole that you can fall down.
Okay.
Yeah, what we like about the Comic-Con stuff is there are some things that we think are really outstanding fundamental tools to have in your self-defense toolbox that comes from basic Comic-Con techniques and drills.
Okay.
Things that we teach early, because if you know how it is, people start training, they might quit after a year, right? But I want to make sure they've got their
Oh,
toolbox.
at least they got something. I got you.
Correct. And I love some of the material that we have out of Comic-Con that fills that gap. I think they're really easy, straightforward. I can show it to people in a day. They can get good at it relatively short term. And I think that material is excellent.
And it's also very good for showing you how you can translate techniques from empty hand to stick to knife to or comma or whatever, the idea that understand the concept and then apply the concept to different things, and it really is concept based. Our curriculum is very much concept and principle based rather than a grocery list of techniques. Our 12 principles is that it's just that the thing on the wall is those principles, because to us those are the things that matter more than technique Y
or drill. There's so many different ways to get to the same place.
Nice. So what okay. How are they, just in a broad sense, to go in detail, but just for the folks that are listening now or that will listen later, just in a broad sense, what makes them different? What are some of the differences between the two?
I think modern Arnis, in the incarnation that came to be in North America. So this is the version that has a heavy influence from small circle jiu-jitsu in particular, but also Muruku Kempo. I think that those elements in modern Arnis gives modern Arnis a flavor that covers a lot of levels of interaction in a conflict. So, in terms of locks and tools that are useful in grappling, things like that. I think that modern Arnis has got a lot of strength in that area, and I also like the way. I love tappy drills. They're awesome. And I love the way that it's organized. And the thing about, for me, and again, I can only speak for myself in this, tappy to me is not, you learn this response, that response, and it's a scripted fight, right? In its base level. For me, it is a tool to use to get you exposure to seeing different things, to have techniques fail, and to have a plan for when they do, right?
Okay.
And so it gets you into that mindset of, well, this failed, so I'm going to do something else. Well, this failed, so I'm going to do something else. One of the 12 principles is there's always a counter, and that's very modern Arnis. And I like that mentality of, you can't count on being one and done. You've got to keep going until they can't count, right? And I like that attitude. I think that's a really smart way to look at conflict, to not believe that you're always going to win on the first shot.
Yeah, right. You better have a backup plan.
You hear people make assumptions like, I'm gonna hit him in his hand, he's gonna drop the stick. I'm getting him in the head, he's gonna drop the stick. I've smashed Mark Lynn in his head on accident. I've smashed him, and he was an airplane.
Adrenaline. No, right. You can't count on that.
And he just blasted right through it.
How many people out there have sparred, have gotten hit on the hand, and they did not?
No, I know. Yeah, the adrenaline. That's a.
So you make assumptions, and So what do you do when your assumption fails? That's that counter to the counter to the counter. What do you do when your plan falls apart, and not you also fall apart, right? You adapt, you change as needed, and you keep going. I was looking at a video of the professor just like last month, and there was a part in there where there wasn't a whole lot of editing to the video. And there was just one part in there where he went to do some technique. I don't remember what it was specifically, but it didn't work out. And then rather than them stopping and cutting that whole piece out, he just did something else and locked the guy. Just within split seconds. It was he went to do this, it failed, he did something else, and it wasn't scripted, it wasn't planned. You can
Yeah,
just
right,
tell
right.
why it didn't work. So he changed and he did something else, and that did work. And to me, that's kind of like what you look to aspire to get to that point.
Yeah, yeah, someday, maybe.
Yeah, we're all right. Yeah,
Okay.
but hey, something to look for and try to shoot for, right?
Comic-Con, I love the organization of the material.
Okay.
I think it was very well organized, and I like the power of Comic-Con.
Comic-Con is a banging art. I like it.
Yeah, Shelley Philpott was here. Was it 2 months ago?
No, he was there the day we signed the lease on this place. He
Yeah.
was here.
Yeah.
And and we went to a seminar, and I was partnered with one of his guys, and within the first 30 minutes, my stick broke because we were banging, and I always like when you get together like pure Comic-Con people, because they have, as Shelley said, the expectation of power. Those guys, they go for it, and they bang.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is the pucker factor is way up there.
Yeah, but if you want to have belief and confidence in your fundamentals, that's what you need. You need to test it, and it gets tested every time they hit, and it's awesome. And you really develop fantastic fundamentals using that approach, and
All right.
love it.
No, so then, okay, so all right, we got kind of differences, all that. Let's go into how do they complement one another?
Well, a lot of the well, obviously, I mean, Modern Arnis was first, and what Grandmaster Ernesto was doing especially after Professor moved, was Modern Arnis. He called it Modern Arnis, but he had different influences, and it took its own path into its own style, because they have different influences. That's just evolution. That's going to happen, but they still come from the same core. And you can absolutely, it's not hard for a Modernist person and a Comic-Con person to find common ground. A lot of the same mentality, a lot of the same idea of countering the counter, and they arose from the same part. So they share more than they have in difference, in my opinion. Just from again, it's not techniques, it's not it's not that, it's the heart of it. The heart of the styles are very complementary to one another, and it's very, very easy to go from one to the other with that open mind, right?
And I think they both have there's an offensive side to it, not just defensive. There's this and this is just my own personal opinion and the feeling that I've gotten from things, but there's a sense of ultimately want dominate,
own your space,
own their space, make them react to you, rather than you being the one always on the defensive and reacting to them. It just they feel like that there's a spirit of just kind of domination when there's a time when you turn it on, and you go for it. I'm not sure. I remember Hawk talking one time that Remy broke his nose once, and he
broke Hawk's nose.
Yeah.
Oh.
And he said,
accidentally.
I remember him talking about, had this look in his eyes, at the time, because he was working his way through something. It's a long story, but anyway, I just remember him saying that, he really saw it in Remy's face in that moment, that this was the fighter. This was really.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Fighter,
Yeah, I mean, and both brothers, I mean, especially Grandmaster Ernesto, staying back in the Philippines, absolutely proved their skill in real life, and that belief, that attitude comes down to those of us who follow in their wake.
Yeah, no, for sure that they actually, so no, I mean, definitely believe that. So we got a question from you. What are the hardest parts of teaching either Modernese or
curriculum?
Curriculum. There's so much good stuff, and it's hard to
figure out what to lay
figure out what to keep and what to. That has been the biggest problem for us as we've evolved, is because there's so many good ideas out there, and there's so many good methodologies to learning what's important. And there's so many different ways to explore these concepts. And it's deciding where do you put it for people who are, say, like pre-Black belt, and then what do you leave for after? Because again, you're going to do this and keel over. So I can't learn it all. It's never going to happen, especially starting as late as I did. But it's just what's really important for the foundation, and then what do you leave for the rest of the house as it gets built?
So when we were doing the meetup, we didn't have a curriculum. The meetup was, what are we going to teach today? I don't know.
I feel like working on this today. Okay, great.
And we did whatever we wanted to do at the meetup, but everybody else.
Which is exactly how we got introduced. If you guys remember, that's exactly how we got introduced to modernities.
But then once we had a school, you've got to have a curriculum.
We have
You
a
have to have a
curriculum.
path for exam. You have to give people structure.
They want that structure. So
No, they do. They do.
Yeah, they do. And as much as instructors might fight against that sometimes, I at least here in, okay, I can't say for the world. All I can say is for Texas and Kansas City.
I think it's a Western civilization thing, to be honest.
I truly think that our culture ingrains in us that need to have that.
I think so.
That box that we can take tools out of and learn how to use. And I think it makes us uncomfortable when we don't have that. I'm in a suburb of Kansas City, and everybody I teach is also living here in Kansas City. And we need to tailor our program to the needs of who's around us, right? If we were in a very different country, in a very different place and time, what we'd be doing would be very different because the context is different, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's just part of our culture. I think, but that's not to say it's bad. You know what I mean?
No, you want to give people a path for progress, and you're going on a journey, and you got mile markers, and you want to, where am I at? How far have I gone? And that's important. So the hard part is just figuring out, okay, how are we going to structure it? What are we going to put at what levels? We have a collection of like modern Art East and Comic-Con curriculums and even a couple other styles, just to see like where do you put where are other people putting these techniques and whatnot, these levels. And we played with multiple versions of curriculums down in Texas, as did our teacher Mark Lynn. So that's the biggest struggle along teaching it.
Yep, that's our answer.
That when
that's fine. He's got June again. Gates or Oklahoma Joe's?
Barbecue.
You got. Oh, okay. I was gonna say he lost me on that one. Okay.
Gates, one I used to mail my family when they were in Japan.
Yeah. Gates and Sons.
Okay. So if you guys are in Kansas City, do not go to Joe's.
No, Oklahoma Joe's is fantastic. Although it's Joe's Kansas City now, it's not Oklahoma Joe's.
It's good.
It's delicious, but
it's hard to get bad barbecue here.
It's not a matter of good and bad. It's a matter of good and very good and super good.
Okay. So it's not bad. It's just a skill of how good. Okay.
Well, do you feel sweet today? Do you feel spicy today?
I gotcha. Okay.
That whole conversation gets involved.
Yeah, we could do a whole barbecue segment.
We could do a whole segment on just Kansas City barbecue and
wine roll. That's right. Yeah, I went there, Texas.
All right, okay, so I'm going to get to Chad's question in a bit. All right, school recent opening. So let's hear about it. So what's going on?
We opened on September 1st.
Okay, I think that's when we started talking.
We are in our school. We don't typically keep the box in our living room. And it's a small school. We are only about 1,000 square feet. We're starting off very slowly. We ended up having to go faster than we'd planned due to some family circumstances.
Okay.
But we are growing slowly. We have a couple of people on trial right now. One of our students that we know is coming back. She is training in Norway right now. Okay. And we miss her terribly, but she'll be back. She's doing a semester abroad. And so she's taking judo and teaching Arnis to her schoolmates on the weekends. So,
wow.
Yeah, I know. She's awesome. So right now our adult program is what's most robust, but we're putting into place. It takes time to get into things like we're
Sure.
right across the street from our school district's new early education center, and we're making contacts now to be able to get into there and do some advertising there. It's just getting out there, all the typical martial arts school stuff.
Yeah, the growing pains. I mean, absolutely. But just for the folks who are not, go ahead.
It's a challenge because, when you're karate, your taekwondo, your Krav Maga, you have these monolithic style names that almost everybody will recognize.
They can resonate with it. Yeah, I get. Yeah.
I sure wish there was some magic wand. So if there's one thing I could change about our community, I wish we'd agree on one term to describe what we do. One, I don't care what it is. Yeah. Just one that we all use.
Yeah, I know.
That
go with it. I would go with the latter too.
People realize how many FMA players there are out there.
And FMA should be the biggest martial arts style in the country.
Heck yeah.
It should be. But
no, right here. I mean, but here, so folks are watching. You guys, just so they understand, you guys, your school, again, only a handful, because I covered this with on an episode with just pure FMA schools, not adding a program, but 100% pure FMA schools that just teach FMA. You guys now fall under that umbrella. Am I correct?
Correct.
Right. So for
okay.
Yeah, so that's not, I mean, I give you guys absolute credit. I hope you guys, because that's not an easy undertaking. Yeah.
It isn't, but it's interesting, as we're getting out there, we're having random people go, hey, I didn't know that we could train in FMA in Kansas City. And it's like, wow, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And making those connections with people and letting them know that we're here and we are growing over time to be able to have more options for people to train. Because sometimes it's about schedule, right?
And for the people who don't know, it is a challenge, a marketing challenge to say, pay me money so I can swing a stick at your head, or pay me money to swing a stick at your child's head. That's a hard sell.
I know. And then you haven't even gotten to edge weapons yet. You're just talking about the stick.
Oh, I know. Yeah, we're not even talking about the knives and the swords and all that stuff.
I know.
No, but and again, we do have a kids program. It's very, very small right now. We just have a few kids, but again, we just opened, so we haven't done advertising yet. We don't even have our permanent sign yet. So that's just part of the process. It's going to take us some growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but when we do, we will. The biggest hurdle for us as a style is getting over the erroneous impression people have that weapons training is inherently more dangerous than empty hand training. And I would argue that it's safer, not more dangerous.
Yeah, it's all in context.
Why it is because people who learn weapons properly have a knowledge and a respect for what's going on. And when we've taught kids, there was far less funny business going on with them swinging sticks around and acting dorky and all those shenanigans that little kids get up to, mainly because that they are as aware as anybody else that this could hurt someone. I think it's a safer training environment versus empty hand where they regularly do things like spraying things. I mean, how many people who grew up in empty hand had to have hip replacements because of that training, right?
Well, the multiple kicking, the constant rotation on the hip for kicks,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of strain in the empty hand only part as well. And so the big hurdle we have to get over is that concept, because even in our martial arts community, outside of our and some very other small exclusive circles, regular empty hand training, they think weapons are more dangerous. That's why they wait until they're a
brown belt and
a 6-foot bow, as if it's more dangerous, and it truly isn't. It's just that's the mentality, and so trying to convince people that that's not reality is a hurdle. That's the biggest problem we have in the U.S. I think.
No, it's one of them. Like I teach, I've been teaching kids FMA. I mean, for years and years, and I use it with the Action Flex, and I just instill the parents. It's obviously very strict as far as what they can and can't do.
Sure.
In and out of the classroom, for that matter, too. But I also said that it really enhances their sense of range. I mean, everything. So I try to throw as much in there and make it less about like hitting somebody with a stick. I mean, that seemed to help me. You know what I mean?
Well,
But
we
I think it's
approach like
absolutely right.
one of the ways we approach like bladed weapons, right? Is the idea that it's hard to know how to defend against a weapon if you don't know how the weapon can be used. So by
Amen.
offensively, it's giving you a better idea of how you can defend against that.
Yeah. How do you actively defend against something you don't fully understand the offense of?
For our kids program in particular, we have a way to introduce long blades to them via modern Arnis's audios. So we have forms, and we use those forms as a way to introduce edged weapons and how they work in a traditional martial arts methodology, right? So that looks normal to like parents, right? They're like, oh, they're learning a form with the stick in the air. Okay, that's what they're doing, and it's a way to kind of bridge that gap some between blunt or empty hand and edged weapons.
And by doing like the blade forms, kids love swords.
They do.
You give any kid,
I think it's like a natural fascination for them.
Yeah. So I think for the parents when they see the kids light up because of the sword, right? That they something becomes less threatening.
Yeah.
Almost seems more like play.
And we try to, especially in our kids program, we very much try to ground everything into the world they live in. It is highly unlikely in Gladstone, Missouri, which is the town I live in, a suburb of Kansas City, a small city here in the Midwest United States, that any of us are going to get into machete fights in the street. It's
right. Yeah, one-on-one in Main Street. Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. So we try to keep things in the context of the life that they're living, with understanding that we are building a foundation for all the other stuff to come later.
Yeah, no, right. I think that's and we got okay. Here's a question from Chad before we get into what are the new things what are the new things, if any, are you both interested in?
Right now, I'm excited about the idea of going into the depths of Comic-Con. That is really gotten really kind of fired my imagination a lot. And it's mainly just so it's just kind of, again, shading in areas that are blank for me right now. And I'm really, really excited about that. And being able to spend more time in that. Now that the school's up, we'll be able to reach out and do that training. And I'm really excited about that. In my personal journey, that's where I'm going.
Awesome.
Yeah, that and my mind's been a lot on the ground, sticks and knives on the ground, what you can and can't do.
Especially the edge weapons, man, on the ground.
Gary would talk. He covers a lot of that material, and so Sunday Forces I've been working out a curriculum for that about all the things we're going to cover there, and I'm really kind of excited to get back into that because it's something I haven't thought about in a long time. So looking forward to that. And I like looking and seeing what other parts of the world are doing with sticks. Aren't exclusive to FMA. You go North America, South America, Europe, Africa. There's all these cultures that have stick fighting in one form or another. And it's really interesting to me to see, what they do and how often it's almost ritualized fighting that they do with it. The types of sticks, the size, the material, two-handed, one-handed,
the different ranges.
Yeah, I'm just fast methodologies. You know what I mean? Like, you're what and how you apply it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care what country's from. If it's interesting, it's interesting.
Well, how human beings have solved the problem of needing to either engage in or defend against violence based on the materials that are at hand, depending on where they were.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's endlessly fascinating. I mean, I could geek out on reading about Polynesian, the hardwood swords that they have and the stuff. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
That whole thing is just fascinating. How they solved the problems of not having advanced metallurgy, I think is
Yeah, right. That
they'll
is.
kill you very quickly. It's pretty amazing, and just seeing how they solve those problems is fascinating.
Awesome. So what about okay. So we'll come to a close here. All right, so quickly, let's touch with a gentle touch and the humor of the husband and wife. So all right. So I don't want you guys fighting after the show. So I'm gonna tread lightly. I'm gonna tread lightly here.
We won't fight. Go for it, man. We won't fight. Everything's cool.
All right. Who takes their journey more seriously?
I think it's equal.
Yeah, we're both very serious about this. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
How it expresses itself is different. It's like I've been writing a blog since like 2013, and it's been bad lately because I've been so busy with school. But that exploration and writing about it has been a side passion of mine. Whereas Kevin does all these deep research projects where he likes to categorize stuff just for himself, and he's just like just to get an idea of the scope of things and how much of a thing does he know about, and he goes down those rabbit holes, and I tend to write. I'm more external, he's more internal.
That's a good way.
Nice compliment. Yeah, compliment you guys each other. Yeah. All right. Favorite weapon each to train in.
That's tough. I really like knife. I like knife, but I like.
Knife's my favorite too. It's what I'm gonna see out there. Yeah.
The other thing I like is figuring out how do you take the stick stuff and improvise it with something else. So like we got a student who's a plumber. It's like, all right, so you got a truck full of wrenches. Let's figure this out. Let's take what you learn in Arnis and how we apply this to your pipe wrench. I like that. Figuring out how to
improvise
translate what we've done.
Improvised weapons is pretty damn fun. Yeah,
is that for you, Miss Jackie? Your improvised weapons?
So I'm embarrassed to admit, when I took the Kobudo class, which I described to other outsiders as learning how to become a one-woman teenage mutant ninja turtle, there was one weapon I did not want any exposure to because there's so much shenanigans out there about it, and that would be what we in the FMAs call tabaktayak or chaco or chaku, which would be nunchaku.
Nunchucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nunchucks.
Yeah. Gosh, I love them. They're so fun.
Yeah.
So from a completely impractical, ridiculous, I can't help it. I fell in love with the stupid things, and I just love
put a smile on your face and makes you happy. You don't need to explain to anybody.
Fun.
Yeah.
So they're a very Arnisi weapon. A lot of FMA players like.
Yeah. All right, we got.
And they're so fun, and so I'm embarrassed to admit it. That would be mine.
Nah, don't be embarrassed. Hey, we go into June. Which one teaches well with kids? Okay. Hey.
Although he's better than he thinks he is.
I can teach them one. Yeah. If I can get down in their face.
Yeah.
I feel very confident teaching them one-on-one. Groups of them, no. It's herding cat. I don't like doing that.
It's tough. It's challenging. It's definitely not easy.
I'm better at teaching kids. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Sparring. Who gets the best of who?
We come out pretty even because he's got his strengths and I've got mine.
Okay.
And we both have tendencies. We know each other well enough. He's got tendencies that I can take advantage of, and I've got tendencies that he can take advantage of.
Sure, right. You guys have been right. It's not the first. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got reach, but I'm not afraid to come in and make him pay.
Yeah. So where I have the reach, she knows that she can't stay out.
Stay on the perimeter. I got you.
So she will charge in. She will crash into your space and be very aggressive in that respect.
I tend to be very. To me, that's my safe place. If I'm not aggressive, I let the opponent just pick me apart. They're going to win because I'm a pudgy, 50 suburbanite with a bad hip. So I can't stay in this game very long.
Yeah, you can't be playing a long range mobility game.
Old one-eyed Chihuahua that's hanging around the block that drives all the big dogs away. That's me. I'm the one-eyed Chihuahua that's kind of stumbling around, with the mange. Yeah, that would be me.
No, that's all right. Power couple. This is awesome. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, right. Don't be embarrassed. I mean, so what you want to do? Yeah. All right. Okay. Closing question. And I don't ask this everybody, but sometimes every once in a while I'll put it in there just to get a feel. What each of you can answer this. What would you like to see as far as positive changes in the FMA community?
I know my answer. I would just like to see everybody be more supportive of each other. There is a certain element. I don't see it as much now as I think I used to see it, but there's an element in our community that likes to tear each other down, challenge each other's credentials, challenge each other's legitimacy, that sort of thing.
Journey, challenging your journey, challenging what you're doing, whether you should do it or not.
I don't think it helps. If we love our art and we want to spread our art, and people come into our community, like I had one of my students. He goes, I don't read anything about FMA because it's the politics and the fighting. He goes, I don't have that. I don't have any interest in it. I just want to train.
Yeah,
for him, it's a big turnoff because of that, And so we try to insulate our students from all of that, as much as we can. But I'd like to just see everybody be more supportive, And if you don't like what somebody's doing, you don't have to say anything.
That's just it. That's what kills me. You don't have to comment. You don't have to say anything. Just move on. Just stay in your lane. Do what makes you happy, and.
Well, my answer, I agree with Ken, but my answer would be, I would be thrilled. My day job is I do marketing as a person. And so my dream is I would love for every single FMA person out there to be as noisy as they can be online and in their communities to be visible. Because there's way more of us than people believe, and there are people who are desperately searching for us. Look at my journey to find my teacher. How hard it was for months and months and months. And I was active, I was online, and I knew where to look, and I still didn't find him.
Still couldn't find him.
For, what is it, like 6-8 months, whatever it was. So my wish is for every single one of us to be as noisy as possible. Put video out there, put pictures out there. When you're in the park, get a little sign that says Filipino martial arts, ask us how. Yes, you can come play. Be open and friendly, and get more people into what we're doing, because the benefits are amazing. You know it, I know it, we all know it. Everybody listening to me right now knows it. So make it happen for as many people as you can, so that our styles can grow, can become bigger and better, and permeate the martial art culture, because there's no reason why we shouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. And just to throw this out there, if you guys, as far as your events go, please don't hesitate to fund the FMA discussion. You know what I mean? That's
and anybody listening to this, you are welcome. Please reach out to us if you're in the area. We would love to see you. If we don't have a class going on, don't worry about that. Just reach out. We'll get together and, consider Kansas City a new bright FMA star.
Yeah, in the Middle West, absolutely. Yeah. We need more of the Middle West exposure. We got the Far West, we got the Far East, but.
And remember, we have the best barbecue, so we'll go eat some best barbecue.
Too, man. You can't go wrong with the food that you're going to be exposed to too. The infamous barbecues. Yeah. But well, this has been absolutely wonderful. I really appreciate you guys coming on. This has been great. So what I always do is I download this, I put it on YouTube, and then of course I'll share it to your guys' wall. And you guys could, of course, share whatever you'd like.
Oh, absolutely.
And all that. So, but again, I want to thank you. So. First married couple, so I thought this went pretty well. So you guys still seem to be happy after the show. So yeah, so hopefully,
Yeah, on Halloween is our 31st anniversary of.
Oh, God bless. God bless. All right. Wow. Obviously, you guys are
It's
doing
only
something.
13 years training, but
Only
31.
30 years, but in real life, 31. So that's awesome. All right. Well, hey, you guys take care of yourselves, and I appreciate you coming on. You know.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. All right, that concludes episode 212, not 112, 212. Who is next? So Wednesday, Buntawak, Soriano Brothers. I had to cancel, unfortunately, last night. I just wasn't under the weather, just wasn't feeling it, to be honest. But yeah, so that's gonna be Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. 8 p.m. Eastern time. So Wednesday night. Do you guys that now? That's gonna be us. That's gonna be also new territory in the fact that we're covering, having two brothers on a show. So that should be really interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, this Wednesday, 8 p.m. Also, if you have not, remember FMA discussion on YouTube, where all our proceeds goes to charity. Okay, so where we help people. All right, those of you watch, thank you, and until Wednesday, I will see you then.